So something you're really good at that I've seen is being able to teach time management specifically to people who are not good at time management. And I'd love for you to be able to share a few tips that you have around this, especially if somebody struggles with time.
I think one of the things I realized about halfway through my career is that I have an operational skill set that is somewhat rare in sales sometimes. And so one of the things that I do is kind of operationalize my time the same way that I would a project, a team, an initiative, and break it down into smaller pieces so that I can look for things that are similar or trends, like how am I spending my time? What's the medium that I'm leaning into for that amount of time? How do I feel about specific tasks that I have to complete? And, how can I take those things and turn them into a more meaningful way to use my time? So, the first tip that I would give anybody who's struggling with time management is to track all of your time. Know where it's going. Where are you spending the most amount of time? Where are those feelings popping up for you where you feel like you never have enough time to spend on those things, or that you really dread a task and sometimes you put it off longer than you should? Because recognizing those feelings is going to help you then kind of rewind and look at, if I have to do this task every week as a part of my job and it's not my favorite thing to do, what is the time that I'm most likely to want to spend on that task? Where can I get a little extra energy from my day just based on who I am and how my brain works to knock that task out in a different way? If I'm saving it until Friday at 3 p.m., which is my absolute no-go time, do not try to schedule meetings with me at that time, please. I know that that has to be a really easy activity that I enjoy doing, because if I'm saving my worst thing for that time, I am not going to do a good job at it.
And how are you doing that? When you say track your time, I think of myself in like the stereotypical, let's say, sales persona that struggles with time. And that persona I know often struggles with anything admin related too. So, what is a quick hack on actually being able to track your time?
It can be as simple as jotting down in a notebook every time you switch from one thing to another what you're doing. It can be a combination of looking back at your calendar and running through your day in your mind. It should be things that aren't just meetings and assigned tasks, but how often am I getting up to go grab a drink of water or use the restroom? How much time am I spending outside? Am I doing 20% admin tasks, 30% admin tasks? What do those break down into? Because that will allow you to take a different snapshot of how you can be more effective and efficient with your time. I think people sometimes confuse activity for actually being an effective, efficient person. And so people misinterpret that from, I need to jump from one task directly into another without taking the time to think about, if I were going to do this in the most efficient way possible, what is the right order of operations? What parts of that can I outsource? Which parts are prerequisites for other parts that I need to realize early on to save myself from having to redo it? So sometimes even slowing down to be able to speed up in those cases.
That makes so much sense, and that's something that I've seen pop up so many times, especially with those high performers and the ones that have so much to do on their plate. And you do a really great job in the way that you teach that personality type how to actually divide work time and home time, which I know a lot of folks struggle with, especially when there's a plethora of things to do. So, what are some items that you would tell that person when they've had an opportunity to go through and they've actually done the time audit, they've gone back through their calendar, they kind of have a rough estimate of how they're spending their time? What would be some pieces of advice you would give that person?
My first piece of advice would be to find those trends and figure out where you can start grouping some of your tasks together. For example, if I'm a salesperson, I probably put together a lot of proposals every week. But if I'm doing one Monday at 10 a.m. and another one Monday at 2 p.m. and then one at 4:30 p.m. on Monday, I probably took more time on each one of those proposals than I would have if I just saved them all for Monday afternoon. because you're going to get into a specific mode of how do I put together proposals? What needs to be included? What content can I use? What resources need included? What systems am I going to be accessing? And you get a little bit of muscle memory when you are fixed in one task for a certain period of time. Now, if you try and stretch that to a period of time where your body is starting to get squirmy and wanting to move on to something else, that's another thing that you have to watch for. But just taking the time to put those tasks together all in one block of time in an hour might mean that each of those proposals took you 20 minutes instead of 30 minutes. But if you're doing that times however many activities you're doing every week, the time saving starts to add up really fast. And that's time that you get to earn back to use in different ways that might not be about completing more tasks. It might be about feeding into yourself and taking good care of yourself so that you can actually focus on the tasks in a different way when you get to them.